148. Getting to Know Jesus, Volume 12. That's on pages 23 through 36. Just getting started on the last volume here. The Bible text is on pages 24 through 27. The lesson notes are pages 28 to 34. Next time I do this, I may have to change the page numbers. I don't know. We'll see. When we get back from Israel and put the pictures in, the page numbers may get moved around a little bit. But we're going to talk about Jesus continues his trials. He's being tried by Pilate. He's going to get tried by Herod tonight. And the question that we're going to deal with is, what is truth? So here is our timeline. We're down here at the bottom of it. And our other timeline were the trials before Pilate, Herod, and then back to Pilate. So he was tried before Pilate. Pilate sends him to Herod. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Herod sends him back to Pilate. Pilate can't seem to do anything with him, so he allows him to take him off to Calvary. And you already know that part, but we're getting up. We're building in that direction. Now, almost everyone will agree that it is very important to tell the truth. Even those who try to disagree understand that you cannot trust somebody who thinks a lying is justified when they want to justify it. And you can always trust somebody who always tells the truth. Therefore, truth will always prevail over non-truth. And we're all dealing with situations where now, is that person telling the whole truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, or are they only telling you part of the truth that fits what they want to deal with a little bit of that tonight. We're in Matthew chapter 27, verses 11 to 14, Mark 15, verses 2 through 5, and Luke 23, verses 2 through 12, John 18, verses 3 to 38. Jesus is now standing in front of Pilate. The priest and the elders are trying to imply that Jesus is a danger to the Roman government in an attempt to get Pilate to have him crucified. So what are we talking about truth here? We're going to explore that in just a minute. They have no qualms about twisting the truth to get what they want. Have any of you noticed the political ads on TV as we're coming near a campaign? We're not going to talk about candidates or parties, but how much of it is, well, I'm only telling you the part I want you to know, even though that's not all of it. It gets annoying a little bit.
The one I hear the most is the one with Scott and Chris.
No, those two are having fun with each other. Well,
I don't see much Scott saying against him, but we already know what Chris is about.
Well, we're going to have to move it.
He doesn't know
We'll
what
have to talk about that during discussion, maybe. But we're going to go on because we're concerned about what Jesus is about and what they're trying to say about him. See, in contrast, Jesus declares the truth. So, Pilate questions about what the truth is. Herod mocks the truth. How does this apply to what you and I are doing when we're being questioned or challenged by others? Are you going to always speak the truth?
Sure.
Spitting the truth. Luke 23 verse 2. And yes, we can spend the whole rest of the evening talking about, well, this political ad and that political ad, boy, do they spin it. And you know something, they're not the only ones. How many people trying to sell you some pill and they tell you this pill will make you better until they tell you all the side effects? Or the side effects, or there's another word there.
Complications.
Complications, there's two different negatives there for every positive. So, you make it. Well, let's get on here. Luke chapter 23, verse 2. And they began to accuse Jesus, saying, "We have found this man subverting our nation. He opposes payment of taxes to Caesar and claims to be Christ, a king." Now, you remember the little discussion earlier about paying taxes to Caesar. He said, render to Caesar what's Caesar's and to God what's God. They're taking that out of context. Ooh, does this make your blood boil? And they're saying what they want you to hear. And like I said, we could go with every one of those political ads and a lot of the ads of other stuff for sale on TV or on the radio. And how much of it is the truth and how much of it is just what they want you to hear? Well, let's get on here. We'll get too caught up in this. We won't get anywhere. The priests and the religious leaders had already brought Jesus to Pilate and tried to get him to condemn Jesus without going into any detail. They didn't want to tell him why they wanted to condemn Jesus. They just wanted him to do it. Now, Pilate is wise enough in his, I'm going to call him stupid, or weak, or I think weak might not be a bad word. Non-committal.
Uninformed.
Well, I don't know if he's that uninformed or not, but that's a possibility too. But he's still wise enough to know that he isn't going to condemn Jesus without a just reason. Just because you guys don't like him, you want him killed, doesn't mean that I'm going to grant your request. So the priests don't have a good reason to justify killing Jesus, and they aren't really allowed to kill someone according to the Roman oppressors. Now sometimes they'd stone somebody, and the Romans would just, oh, I didn't see that. Oh, the guy's dead. Oh, that's too bad. I don't know how that happened. But to get somebody crucified, really, crucifixion was the most horrendous way ever devised of killing a person.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a couple of more lessons down the road. But they want to get Pilate to execute Jesus. I believe part of the reason is they don't want to be blamed by those Jews who believe in Jesus. So if the Romans did it, they can say, well, blah, 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 blah. We don't know how it happened. The Romans did it.
I want to pass the
And
buck.
they can blame it on the Romans instead of on themselves. Oh, what we do to hide what we should not be hiding. Therefore, they take Jesus, what Jesus had said about paying taxes to Caesar, they twist it around and imply that Jesus is a threat to the Roman government. How many times have you said something, some of you are on Facebook, have you ever said anything on Facebook and somebody kind of misinterpreted what you said, you had to go back in and write a big long explanation to explain how you're right and they were misinterpreting you? I've had to do that more times than I want to admit.
They just tell me I'm wrong. That's all they do. I don't believe that's the truth. Because I'll put truth up above some stuff and they'll say, that's not the truth.
Well, you'll have to elaborate. I'm finding that it works, generally works better. Instead of just saying some trite little talking point, you need to explain that talking point and why it is true and relevant. Otherwise, somebody's going to bite you for it.
I think this is a difference of opinion.
Sometimes it is.
And
Sometimes.
all you have to do is accept the other person and they accept you.
If you try to understand where they are coming from. Now, this is what we're doing here. We're looking at the Jews. We're looking at where they're coming from, the chief priests and the elders. They honestly believe that Jesus is a threat to their Jewish way of doing things. They have not investigated the facts. How many times have you gotten into an argument with somebody who had not investigated the facts? How many times have you been the one that's not investigated the facts? And they're spinning it to their agenda.
It's like this. Jesus is the New Testament. He's trying to bring in what he wants to know. And here are the Jews and the Old Testament. And it's
Well, there's a degree of that, yes. Bob?
In the scripture it says that they told Jesus, we know that you are from God because no one could do these things unless God be with them.
Nicodemus
So the
said
Jews
that.
knew, right, but there was that discussion in the hierarchy of the Jews. So they knew, but at the same time they were lying about him. They were saying that what he was doing was because of Beelzebul, and the reason was because they wanted to protect their own political positions.
They wanted to protect the way they'd always done things.
They wanted the people to look at them, and Jesus was going to be a distraction because he was the truth.
Well, there's several factors that go involved, and I got to go quickly here or we won't get done. This is going to be a long lesson tonight. That they didn't look to examine the evidence. This was their tradition, and tradition weighed over Scripture. And if they would examine the evidence, and I would say this, and I would say it as lovingly as possible, if any Jew would go back and examine the prophecies concerning the Messiah, and then examine to Jesus to see if he fit them, I think they would become a Messianic Jew pretty quickly. That's my own opinion. Well, it's a tragedy to observe how some will quickly misrepresent the truth when they are opposed to someone else's agenda. And we've got the atheists, we've got the militant Muslims, we've got the homosexual activists. Of course, the ACLU kind of ties in with the atheist. It's an atheistic organization. Separation from church and state, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, all attacking Christianity, and they're conjuring up stuff, taking it out of context because it supports their agenda, whether it's really true or not. Now, integrity doesn't seem to matter when hatred is the ruling force. And the people that are trying to tell Christians that you can't speak out against this or you can't speak up for that aren't representing the truth. Or respecting our First Amendment rights, or biblical rights for that matter. So how often do we misrepresent or twist what another person said because we don't like them and we want to defeat their agenda? Now again, we can get off into political ramifications, that person in the other party, and we can spend the whole night putting them down and finding fault and not looking at any good qualities in them, just bashing them down until we're worn out of bashing. Or run out of time, whichever it is. But is that being true? Is that being honest? Is that being objective? Like Will Rogers said, I never met a man I didn't like. If we would look for the good in other people, even though we might not agree with John Dillinger killing a bunch of people and doing some of the things he did, he loved his mother. There's good in everybody if we would look for it. That doesn't mean we let them get away with the bad. But it hurts our witness regardless of our supposed motive. As Christians, our integrity demands that we always tell the truth and not try to twist it to avoid admitting our fault or misrepresenting the words or actions of another person. Because as long as I deny my fault, I am not going to do anything to correct my fault. I'm going to continue in it. So sometimes that means, yes, I had to admit that I did not do something that I was supposed to do. I lost a job because I didn't do a rather important responsibility because I forgot at the end of the day and walked out without doing it. And it was a little hard to admit it. I don't like being wrong. It hurts. At least for me. Now some people don't care, but I do. Well, let's go on. Declaring the truth. What is truth? Here's our map of Jerusalem. Now, Jesus went from the Garden of Gethsemane, which is over here, to the house of the high priest. This is where he was arrested. And the house of the high priest is, there's the house of Caiaphas, right down here. Here's where the upper room was. So he went down here, they took him back here, and from there he was taken to Pilate at the fortress of Antonia, right here by the temple grounds. And from there to Herod's castle on the western wall.
It's over here.
Here's Herod's palace. And then back to Pilate. And then from somewhere, now there's Golgotha. There's one location for Gordon's cavalry. And another location is somewhere up here on the north side. One of those two places was where he carried the cross. And he showed you how much he loved you.
But all those, was it very far to walk from those places?
Richard, how far is that? I'll tell you in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
From
That part of Jerusalem is not very big.
it is in Jamaica.
Yeah, I would say we're talking maybe a mile from here to here.
Oh, okay.
So that's just not that significantly far. Okay, let's go on and talk about declaring the truth. Matthew 27:11, Mark 15:2, Luke 23:3, and John 18:33 to 38a. Pilate then went back inside the palace and he summoned Jesus. Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor, Pilate, asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews, as they say?" Was that your own idea, Jesus asked, or did others talk to you about me? "Am I a Jew?" Pilate replied. "It was your people and your chief priest who handed you over to me. What is it you've done?" Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight and prevent my arrest by the Jews. But now my kingdom is from another place." "You are a king then," said Pilate. "Yes, it is as you say. You are right in saying that I am a king," Jesus replied. "In fact, for this reason I was born, and for this reason I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." What is truth? Pilate asked. Pilate declares to the crowd that he finds no justification for having Jesus killed. Or Pilate reacts to the allegation made by the religious leaders that Jesus claims to be a king, and he asks Jesus if this is true. Now, this is one of the few times during his trial that Jesus actually speaks in his defense. The other time was when he was before Caiaphas, And they said, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And he said, "I am." And now this time, he's challenging Pilate, or acknowledging to Pilate that he is a king. So he challenges why Pilate is inquiring, but also declares the truth that he is a king of a kingdom that is far beyond this world. Oh, we can spend time talking about how big and powerful, how old, how wonderful Jesus' kingdom is, but we got to go on. So Jesus declares that his testimony is true, and those who believe in him listen to the truth.
His kingdom is in heaven.
His kingdom is in heaven, and there's not a kingdom on earth that big.
This kingdom is not far from us. This kingdom is here, right now.
You and I are part of it.
That's right. The kingdom
So-
is here right now, and the fullness of the kingdom will be when we get there. But right now, we're actually in the, and when he says, "My kingdom is not of this world," we're not of this world. We only live in this world.
That's
We're
right.
part of that kingdom, so we're not of this world.
The church and the kingdom are one and the same. Did a little study on the New Testament a few months back and shared that with you. So yes, it is present tense and future tense. And you are already citizens of that kingdom. You've got dual citizenship right now. So Pilate asked him, "What is truth?" As though he doesn't know. Now, Jesus will never speak anything but the truth. Even in the presence of the man who will soon give in to the crowd and have him executed, Jesus speaks with honesty and integrity. He's not afraid of the consequences. He knows what's coming. I wonder how many of those people that lost their heads in the last few weeks knew what was coming. Or if they just kind of, "Oh, this is not going to happen. It's just a false alarm. Oops, today it is not a false alarm." And it happened. Likewise, if we always tell the truth, we may suffer because of hatred directed at us, a mistake that we know we have to admit, or a prejudice of another who is opposed to us, or what we are seeking to do, but we will stand before God with our integrity intact. Nice thing about telling the truth, you don't have to remember what you said.
That's true.
If you tell a lie, you got to remember what you said, because as sure as you don't, and you won't,
And you'll do another lie.
you'll have to tell another lie to cover the other lie, and another lie, and sooner or later it does come back and bite you. We will know that we have told the truth. Now let's talk about, oh, here's our picture. This is Herod's castle, located not far from the place where Jesus ate the Last Supper with the apostles.
It's like my picture in the book, isn't it?
Yeah, but
Like,
it is.
yeah.
In the book.
Let's talk about denying the truth. Matthew 27, verses 12 to 14, Mark 15, verses 3 to 5, Luke 23, verses 4 to 7, and John 18, last part of verse 38. Then Pilate announced, he went out and said to the chief priests and the Jews and the crowd, "I find no basis for a charge against this man." Now the chief priests accused him of many things. They're trying to make up all sorts of things to get him killed. Matthew says that when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate asked him, "Aren't you going to answer? See how many things they're accusing you of?" They're throwing everything out there in the world. He knows what's true and what isn't. Don't you hear the testimony they're bringing against you? But Jesus still made no reply, not even to a single charge. Now if he had defended himself, they would have had no grounds to take him to the cross. But he knew he had to go there, so he kept silent. And Pilate was amazed. The great amazement of the governor. But they insisted. He stirs up the people all over Judea by his teaching. He started in Galilee and he has come all the way here. Oh, Galilee. On hearing this, Pilate asked if the man was a Galilean. When he heard that Jesus was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at that time. Pilate declares to the crowd that he finds no justification for having Jesus killed. The chief priests and the elders respond with all sorts of accusations, to which Jesus refuses to respond. Now Jesus knows he's innocent, and he will not engage in a one-sided debate with such a hate group as is what is now before him. The chief priest accused Jesus of stirring up all Judea and his teachings and having started his troublemaking in Galilee. Galilee? Wait a minute, I'm not governor of Galilee. That's Herod's territory.
Washed his hands,
Well, way out.
passed the buck.
As soon as Pilate hears that he thinks that he can get out of condemning Jesus by sending him to Herod. Let Herod deal with this man and this mob. And he tries to pass the responsibility off to someone else instead of putting a stop to their madness here and now. Richard.
Interesting thing, Pilate and Herod did not get along with each other.
I know, but
We're going to get there.
Until-
Jesus brought the worst of enemies together in unity, because when it came to his crucifixion, all of a sudden they became best friends.
Yeah.
Oh, how many times has that happened? I remember a kid in high school who was picking on me and teasing me, and I finally got up and whooped him, and we became good friends from then on. It needed me to
So true.
show him where the boundaries were, I guess.
Yep.
Well, it's not becoming to us as Christians to deny the truth, just as we don't like the person telling it. Just because we don't like the person telling the truth. If they're telling the truth, you don't like it, then maybe you need to examine yourself why you don't like it. It's not good to deny it. How many times have you ignored the truth because that came from someone that you disagreed with and persisted that they were wrong? We've done that at least once in our lives, unless you're just a very compliant person. No, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right. But most of us have denied or gotten into a disagreement with somebody who was telling the truth at least once. Denying the truth does not make it untrue or excuse you from the application to your life. Now I'm going to take a shot here across the bow and make a very, I want to be gentle and loving in the statement, but it's going to be strong. The homosexual activists that are trying to force their ways on us are denying the truth. And even though they'll try to justify I was born that way, or we have some sort of inherited right or something like that, does not make it true. And it does not excuse their immoral behavior. Now, we don't want to hate them. We want to tell them that what they're doing is not honoring God and help them to see God's design and why they need to live by it. But again, we don't want to join those who are compromised and say, oh, well, it doesn't make no difference. You can be that way if you want to, and we'll let you be that way, and we'll be that way with you. And it doesn't work either, because the truth is still the truth. See, when others observe that you've denied the facts, it hurts your credibility. How can you communicate with someone who pretends that what is true is not? And God said, getting back to the previous comment, the marriage is a union of one man and one woman for life. And a man shall know his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So, enough said on that. Denying the truth hinders any efforts to bring about resolution to the issue that the truth is addressing. So again, how important is it to always tell the truth? Let's go on. We've got one more here to go with yet. Mocking the truth. Luke 23 verses 8 through 12. Have any of you ever been through that? When Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased because for a long time he had been wanting to see him. From what he had heard about him, he hoped to see him perform some miracle. He plied him with many questions, but Jesus gave him no answer. The chief priests and the teachers of the law were standing there vehemently accusing him. Then Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him, dressing him in an elegant robe, and they sent him back to Pilate. That day Herod and Pilate became friends. Before this, they had been enemies. Herod had heard about Jesus and he desired to interview him. So he welcomes the opportunity to get to know who Jesus is. Unfortunately for him, Jesus refuses to answer any of his questions. Meanwhile, the chief priests and the elders continue their accusations. They went along. They're going along to tell Herod, okay, Pilate won't condemn this because Pilate is wishy-washy and weak, and so you do it. After a time of this, Herod starts mocking Jesus. The governor and the soldiers join him in the abuse. Now, we saw Jesus got blindfolded and slapped around and hit with rods during the night by the Sanhedrin under Annas. And and there was some abuse that came to him under Caiaphas. Now Pilate didn't initially abuse him any, but now Herod is taken to mocking and abusing him. Just how much of that can you put up with? If it were you being mocked and abused and slapped around and hit with rods unjustly and unfairly, would you say, you have no right to do that, stop that, you're hurting me, and so forth? Or would you be silent before your killers? So the soldiers that joined in the abuse, they put a purple robe on Jesus. This is where he gets the robe. And they mock him, and they send him back to Pilate. Now, unfortunately, those who are mocking, who will mock you for telling, there are those who will mock you for telling the truth, and they will try to make you feel ashamed for standing for what is right in an attempt to get you to not condemn them for what they are doing that's wrong. If I mock you enough, you'll go into the closet and shut up, and you won't tell me that I'm a sinner and I'm doing wrong things, being bad or immoral or lying or deceptive or whatever it is I'm doing. I've been guilty of mocking other Christians because I did disagree with their temptations. I have to confess that. They had not lied, but I denied the truth that they were presenting and mocked them as a result. I have since repented of that behavior. Now, mocking someone you don't agree with does not get people to respect you.
That's true.
Mocking someone of them does not alter the fact that the truth is still truth, whether you're the one telling the truth or they're the one telling the truth, or you're both telling the truth, just not telling all of it. Mocking is more likely to come back on the mocker when the truth prevails and they are found to be the one in error. Go watch the news reports on TV and see where they sometimes will get so-and-so's talking points, and they'll show the fallacies or the inaccuracies in those talking points. So a little bit of that even this evening before we came. So when all is said and done, the truth will win out and any opposition to it will be discredited. Considering that truth, where do you want your integrity to stand? Well, the conclusion is this. Truth is determined by God, not by man. And we need to stand up for God's truth and lovingly advise a few people that God determines what is truth. Our challenge is to discover it and live by it. Next week, Jesus is going to be back in the hands of Pilate. A crown of thorns. He hasn't gotten the crown of thorns yet. The crown of thorns and a terrible lashing with a cat of nine tails awaits him before he is sent to the cross. How will he handle all of this? Now you'll just have to come and see.
It won't be next week, it'll be the week after.
Actually, it's going to be 2 weeks. Yeah, that's right.
Are you going to be
We're going to break into our discussion groups and turn over to page 35 for our
We're 3
discussion
weeks from
questions.
today. We'll be
Huh?
gone 2 weeks.
We'll be going 2 Wednesdays.
2 Wednesdays we'll be gone, yep. 1 Sunday.
You can follow us and stay in touch with what is happening with the Getting to Know Jesus Bible Study Ministry on Plaxo, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and watch our video clips on YouTube and GodTube. Getting to Know Jesus is sponsored by New Hope Gospel Ministries. If you'd like to follow along with us and start your Getting to Know Jesus Bible Study group, or just pray for us or support our ministry, you can go to www.gettingtoknowjesus.org and find all the information that we have available for you. If you look at the lower right hand corner, there's a button where you can make a safe and secure donation to the Getting to Know Jesus Bible Study Ministry. Or you can go to the order page and order your Getting to Know Jesus books for your Bible study group. Thank you for stopping by, and keep us in your prayers and let us know how we can pray for you.